What would you do if your husband's secretary sent you photos from their romantic vacation? While he told you he was visiting his sick mother, Sarah Mitchell thought she knew her husband of 8 years, until she discovered he'd drained their entire life savings, $200,000, to buy an engagement ring for his 26-year-old assistant. But that was just the beginning. What Sarah uncovered next would expose a conspiracy so shocking, it would bring down an entire company and land both her cheating husband and his manipulative mistress in federal prison. This is the true story of how one woman turned her greatest betrayal into the sweetest revenge. Buckle up, because this journey from devastation to triumph will keep you on the edge of your seat for the next hour. Sarah's story proves that sometimes our darkest moments become the foundation for our greatest comebacks. If this incredible journey of resilience and justice inspired you, smash that like button. It really helps more people discover these amazing stories. Drop a comment below and tell me, what would you have done in Sarah's situation? And if you love true stories of people who refuse to stay down when life knocked them out, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because I've got more incredible tales of triumph that will absolutely blow your mind. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Until then, remember, your story isn't over until you decide it is. Sarah Mitchell thought she had it all figured out. At 35, she was the marketing director at Nexus Tech, a thriving startup where she'd built campaigns that tripled their client base. She lived in a beautiful suburban home with Jake, her husband of 8 years, who worked as head of sales at the same company. Their colleagues often joked they were the power couple everyone envied. That illusion crumbled on a Tuesday morning when her phone buzzed with an Instagram notification. Madison Brooks had tagged her in a story. Sarah nearly dropped her coffee mug. Madison was Jake's 26-year-old assistant, an ambitious influencer wannabe who treated the office like her personal photo studio. Why would she tag Sarah in anything? The first photo showed champagne glasses against an ocean backdrop. Cabo San Lucas. The caption read, with heart eye emojis. Sarah's stomach tightened. Jake had told her he was visiting his sick mother in Ohio. She swiped to the next story. Madison in a tiny bikini, laughing as someone's hands, unmistakably Jake's hands, complete with his distinctive watch, applied sunscreen to her shoulders. Sarah's hands trembled as she continued swiping. Photo after photo of Madison and Jake living it up in luxury. Poolside cocktails, sunset dinners, dancing at beachside bars. Then came the final story that destroyed her world completely. Jake, down on one knee in the sand, holding up a ring box. Madison's perfectly manicured hands covering her mouth in mock surprise. The diamond caught the sunset light, a massive solitaire that looked exactly like the one Sarah had bookmarked on her laptop 6 months ago when Jake asked what kind of engagement ring she'd want to upgrade to for their 10th anniversary. The caption made her physically sick. He said I was the only woman who truly understood him. I said yes to forever. Sarah ran to her laptop and logged into their joint bank account with shaking fingers. The balance that should have shown their combined savings of $200,000 now displayed $4,300. Her husband had drained their entire life savings to propose to his secretary in Mexico while telling Sarah he was caring for his sick mother. She heard footsteps on the stairs. Jake was coming down for breakfast, probably preparing to tell her more lies about how exhausting his time in Ohio had been. Sarah screenshot every single photo before Madison could delete them. She had evidence now. She had proof of what Jake really thought of their marriage, their future, their shared life. She just didn't know yet that proof wouldn't be enough. When Jake walked into the kitchen, adjusting his tie and checking his phone, Sarah studied his face carefully. He looked tired, which made sense if he'd been partying in Mexico for 4 days. But he also looked guilty, avoiding her eyes as he grabbed his coffee. "How's your mom doing?" Sarah asked quietly. Jake nearly choked on his coffee. "Oh, better. Much better. The doctors think she'll be able to go home soon." "That's wonderful news. I'm so glad you could be there for her." He nodded quickly, still not meeting her eyes. "Yeah, well, you know how important family is." Family? The word tasted bitter in Sarah's mouth as she watched her husband of 8 years lie to her face while his engagement photos to another woman sat saved on her phone. "I should get going," Jake said, kissing her forehead with lips that had probably kissed Madison on a beach 12 hours ago. Big presentation today. After he left, Sarah sat in their kitchen, the kitchen where they'd planned their future, where they'd talked about kids and retirement and growing old together, and realized that everything she'd believed about her life was a carefully constructed lie. She opened her laptop and began planning her next move. By 9 a.m., Madison had posted the engagement announcement on the company Slack channel. Sarah watched in real time as her coworkers reacted with congratulations and heart emojis, apparently unaware that Jake was still legally married to their colleague sitting 3 floors above them. Her phone started buzzing immediately. "Sarah, honey, are you seeing this?" Alex Rodriguez, her best friend and the company's HR director, burst into her office without knocking. "Please tell me this is some kind of sick joke." Sarah turned her laptop screen toward Alex, showing the Instagram stories. "Jake told me he was in Ohio taking care of his sick mother." Alex sank into the chair across from Sarah's desk. "Oh my God. Sarah, I am so sorry. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to destroy him," Sarah said quietly. But before she could make her first move, Madison appeared in her doorway wearing a diamond ring that could blind pilots. "Sarah, I hope there are no hard feelings," Madison said with fake sweetness. "Jake told me you two have been growing apart for years. He said the marriage was practically over anyway." The audacity made Sarah's vision blur. "Excuse me. I know this might be awkward since we all work together, but Jake and I want to keep things professional. He's moving out this weekend. By the way, he asked me to tell you since he's been so busy with the Peterson account." Sarah gripped her desk so hard her knuckles went white. "He asked you to tell me he's moving out." Madison examined her new ring in the light. "He thought it would be easier this way. Less drama. You know he said you can keep the house for now, but obviously that'll need to be sorted in the divorce." Alex stood up abruptly. "Madison, I think you should leave." "Of course, I just wanted to make sure Sarah heard it from me directly. Girl code, right." Madison smiled brightly and walked away, her heels clicking down the hallway. Sarah stared at her computer screen, watching as more colleagues congratulated Jake and Madison on Slack. Someone had even started planning an engagement party. "What kind of man has his secretary tell his wife he's leaving?" Alex asked incredulously. Sarah opened her banking app again, staring at the depleted account, the kind who steals $200,000 to buy his mistress a ring. She spent the rest of the morning documenting everything. Screenshots of the social media posts, printouts of the bank statements. She even found emails on Jake's company laptop, which he'd stupidly left logged in on their home computer, discussing his plans to eliminate the dead weight from his life. The emails were even worse than the photos. Jake had been planning this for months, discussing with Madison how to maximize their financial gain while minimizing Sarah's ability to fight back. He'd researched divorce laws, figured out how to hide assets, and even planned the timing to coincide with the company retreat where he apparently intended to make some kind of announcement. Sarah printed everything and put it in a folder labeled Insurance. She was going to expose them both at the company retreat next week, in front of Victoria Sterling, the CEO who'd been Sarah's mentor. In front of all their colleagues who were currently celebrating Jake's engagement. In front of everyone who mattered in their industry. She had evidence. She had proof. She had the moral high ground. She thought that would be enough. At lunch, she called Jake's mother in Ohio to check on her health. "Oh, Sarah, sweetheart, I'm feeling wonderful. Why do you ask?" "Jake said he'd been visiting you this week because you were ill." The silence stretched uncomfortably long. "Honey, I haven't seen Jake in 6 months. He said you two were too busy with work to visit." Sarah hung up and added, "Lying about sick mother," to her growing list of evidence against her husband. By the end of the day, Madison had posted 17 Instagram stories about her engagement, including a detailed video about how Jake had planned the perfect romantic proposal for months. Sarah screenshotted every single one. She was building an airtight case against them both. She just didn't realize that Jake was building an even stronger case against her. The company retreat at the luxury mountain resort should have been Sarah's moment of triumph. She'd spent a week perfecting her presentation, not the marketing presentation everyone expected, but a devastating exposé of Jake and Madison's betrayal complete with screenshots, bank records, and a timeline of their deception. She'd even practiced her speech in the mirror, imagining Victoria Sterling's shocked face when she realized what kind of people she'd been promoting, but Victoria beat her to the podium. "Before we begin today's sessions, I have some organizational announcements," Victoria said. her usually warm smile seeming forced. "We're implementing some structural changes to better align our teams." Sarah felt the first flutter of unease. Sarah Mitchell has decided to pursue new opportunities outside Nexus Tech. Today will be her last day with us. The conference room erupted in surprised murmurs. Sarah shot to her feet. "Excuse me, I never decided anything of the sort." Victoria's expression remained neutral. "Sarah, please don't make this more difficult than necessary." "I'm not making anything difficult. I have no idea what you're talking about. I love my job. I've never said anything about leaving." Jake stood up from across the room, his face a mask of concerned sympathy. "Sarah, honey, I know this is hard, but you've been struggling lately. The stress, the emotional instability." "Emotional instability." Sarah's voice cracked. "You stole our life savings to propose to your secretary." The room fell silent. 60 colleagues stared at her with expressions ranging from pity to embarrassment. Madison placed a gentle hand on Jake's arm. "Jake told me you've been having some episodes lately. Paranoid delusions about our professional relationship." "Paranoid delusions, I have photos, I have bank records." "You posted your engagement on Instagram." But when Sarah pulled out her phone to show the evidence, her hands were shaking so badly she could barely operate it. To everyone watching, she looked exactly like what Jake had apparently told them: she was an unstable woman having a breakdown. Victoria stepped forward. "Sarah, you're clearly going through something difficult. We're willing to provide a generous severance package and excellent references, but I need you to gather your things and leave the premises. You're firing me based on lies from my cheating husband." "I'm not firing you. You're being restructured out due to performance concerns that have been building for months." Sarah looked around the room desperately. These were her colleagues, people she'd worked with for 5 years, but their faces showed discomfort, not support. They wanted her to stop making a scene. "And I'm pleased to announce that Madison Brooks will be stepping into an expanded role as marketing manager," Victoria continued. "She's shown exceptional initiative and fresh thinking." Madison beamed as applause filled the room. "Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm excited to bring new energy to the department." Sarah realized with growing horror that this had all been planned. Jake hadn't just stolen her money and her marriage, he'd orchestrated her professional destruction. Security arrived within minutes. 2 uniformed guards flanked Sarah as she was escorted from the conference room where she'd planned to expose Jake's crimes. Instead, Madison live-streamed Sarah's humiliation on TikTok, narrating for her followers, "When workplace drama goes too far, some people just can't handle other people's success." The video went viral within hours. Sarah sat in her car in the resort parking lot, shaking with rage and disbelief. She tried calling Alex, but her best friend's number went straight to voicemail. She drove home to find the locks changed and her belongings in boxes on the front porch. A note from Jake explained that he'd filed for divorce and obtained a temporary restraining order based on her erratic behavior at the retreat. She was no longer allowed to enter what had been their shared home. Sarah loaded her belongings into her car and drove to a motel, finally understanding the depth of Jake's planning. He hadn't just decided to leave her for Madison. He'd systematically destroyed her credibility, her income, and her support system before making his move. She'd thought she was playing chess while he was playing checkers. She'd been dead wrong. Sarah discovered the true extent of Jake's manipulation when she started job hunting a week later. 3 interviews that had seemed promising ended abruptly when her references were checked. The 4th interviewer was kind enough to be direct. "I have to ask, there are some concerning reports about your departure from Nexus Tech. Allegations of workplace harassment and emotional instability." Sarah's blood ran cold. "What allegations?" "Look, I want to give you a fair chance, but I've heard from multiple sources that you had some kind of breakdown. Accusations against colleagues, paranoid behavior." Jake had been busy. While Sarah was looking for apartments she could afford on unemployment benefits, her husband was systematically destroying her professional reputation throughout their industry. The worst part was how believable his story sounded. Stressed marketing executive cracks under pressure, becomes obsessed with her husband's innocent working relationship with his assistant, and melts down publicly when the assistant gets engaged to someone else. It was a narrative that played into every stereotype about jealous, unstable wives. And it was working. Sarah burned through her savings within a month. The severance package Victoria had promised never materialized. Apparently, there had been complications with her departure paperwork. Her health insurance was canceled. Her car payment was late. Jake, meanwhile, was thriving. His engagement to Madison had been featured in the local business journal as a workplace romance success story. Madison's Instagram showed them house hunting in the luxury neighborhoods Sarah could no longer afford. The house Jake had kicked her out of, their house bought with both their incomes, was already on the market. The listing photos showed Madison's belongings throughout the rooms where Sarah had lived for 3 years. Sarah's breaking point came when she ran into Alex at the grocery store. "Alex, thank God!" Sarah approached her former best friend with relief. "I've been trying to reach you for weeks." Alex looked uncomfortable. "Sarah, I can't really talk to you." "What do you mean you can't talk to me? We've been friends for 6 years." "Jake showed me some concerning text messages you sent him, and Madison shared some recordings." "What recordings?" Alex shifted nervously. "Look, I care about you, but I have to think about my job. If you're really going through something, you should get professional help." Sarah watched her best friend walk away, abandoning her based on whatever lies Jake and Madison had fabricated. That night, alone in her studio apartment, Sarah took a pregnancy test. 2 pink lines appeared. She was carrying Jake's baby while he was planning a new life with another woman. She called his number, but it went to voicemail. She tried texting, "We need to talk. It's important." His response came an hour later. "My attorney has advised me not to communicate with you directly. Please contact his office if you have legal matters to discuss." Sarah stared at the pregnancy test and made a decision that would change everything. She wasn't going to tell him about the baby. Not yet. First, she was going to destroy him the same way he'd destroyed her. Sarah moved in with her grandmother in Millbrook, a small town 2 hours from the city where her old life had imploded. Nana Rose was 83, sharp as a tack, and the only person who believed Sarah's story without question. "That boy was always too smooth," Nana Rose said, serving Sarah tea in china cups that had belonged to her own grandmother. "Your grandfather used to say, 'Never trust a man who's charming to everyone but his wife.'" Sarah converted Nana's spare bedroom into a makeshift investigation headquarters. She pinned photos, bank statements, and timeline charts to a corkboard like a detective hunting a serial killer. "What exactly are you looking for, dear?" Nana Rose asked one morning, finding Sarah surrounded by printouts and highlighters. "Proof that Jake is stealing from the company. He's too greedy to just embezzle from me. If he's draining personal accounts, he's probably skimming from client funds too." Sarah had created a fake LinkedIn profile, Jessica Chen, marketing consultant, and used it to follow Jake and Madison's professional activities. What she discovered made her stomach turn. They weren't just a couple, they were a brand. Madison had rebranded herself as a business influencer, posting about power couple goals and building empire together. Her TikTok account had exploded to 50,000 followers who ate up her content about winning in love and business. Jake had been promoted to vice president of sales after Sarah's departure. His first initiative was a new client acquisition strategy that seemed impossibly successful. Too successful. Sarah spent weeks cross-referencing the client names Jake claimed to have landed with actual business registrations. Half of them didn't exist. The ones that did exist had no record of working with Nexus Tech. Jake was creating fake clients and fake invoices, then splitting the payments with Madison through a complex web of shell companies and business accounts. They'd stolen at least $2 million. Sarah documented everything, building a case that would send them both to federal prison. She felt the familiar thrill of putting together a winning campaign, except this time her targets were the people who destroyed her life. But when she tried to present her evidence to the FBI, they were skeptical. "Ma'am, these are serious allegations," Agent Martinez said, reviewing Sarah's files. "But you have a clear personal motivation to fabricate evidence against your ex-husband." "I'm not fabricating anything. Look at the bank records." "We'll look into it, but I have to warn you, filing false reports is a felony." Sarah left the FBI office feeling defeated. Even when she had rock-solid evidence, no one believed the crazy ex-wife who'd already had one public breakdown. That night, she researched Jake and Madison's upcoming wedding. They'd planned an elaborate destination ceremony in Napa Valley, sponsored by several luxury brands who were paying them to showcase their products. They were literally profiting off the attention from Sarah's humiliation. The wedding was in 6 weeks. Sarah calculated that Jake would probably flee the country immediately afterward, taking their stolen millions to some non-extradition paradise. She had 6 weeks to take them down. But first, she had to deal with a more immediate crisis. The stress and poor nutrition had taken their toll. Sarah started cramping during her second trimester, and Nana Rose rushed her to the emergency room in the middle of the night. She lost the baby on a Tuesday morning while Jake was posting wedding planning content on social media. Sarah had never felt more alone in her life. Sarah spent 3 days in bed after the miscarriage, staring at the ceiling and wondering if fighting Jake was worth the cost. She'd lost everything: her job, her home, her marriage, her friends, and now her baby. Jake was winning, and she was destroying herself trying to stop him. That's when Emma Sterling called. "Ms. Mitchell, this is Emma Sterling, Victoria Sterling's daughter. I know this sounds strange, but I need to talk to you about Jake Mitchell and Madison Brooks." Sarah sat up in bed. "Victoria's daughter, how did you get my number?" "I work in our IT security department. I've been tracking some suspicious activity in our system, and I think you might be the only person who can help me stop it." They met at a coffee shop in Emma's college town. Emma was 23, brilliant, and nothing like her polished CEO mother. She had purple hair, multiple piercings, and the intensity of someone who'd been carrying a secret too long. "My mom is a great CEO, but she has a blind spot for charming men," Emma said. "Jake convinced her that you were unstable and that Madison was this amazing go-getter who deserved a chance." "So you know they're stealing?" Emma nodded grimly. "I've been tracking it for months. They're using a sophisticated system of fake clients and shell companies. But every time I try to show my mom evidence, Jake convinces her I'm just a troublemaker who doesn't understand business." "Your own mother doesn't believe you. Jake is very good at what he does. He's positioned himself as her most trusted advisor. She thinks he saved the company from the chaos you supposedly created." Sarah felt a spark of hope for the first time in months. "What do you need from me?" "I need someone with marketing expertise to help me document their scheme in a way that's undeniable. And I need someone with personal motivation to see this through." Emma pulled out a tablet and showed Sarah spreadsheets that made her head spin. "They've stolen over $2 million so far, but they're planning something bigger for right after the wedding." "What kind of bigger?" "They're going to liquidate all the major client accounts and disappear. The company will collapse within weeks, and 800 people will lose their jobs." Sarah stared at the numbers. "They're going to destroy the entire company. Jake has been systematically weakening our client relationships and transferring loyalty to shell companies he controls. After the wedding, he'll activate a virus that will corrupt our customer database and make it look like a cyber attack. Meanwhile, he and Madison will already be in a non-extradition country with millions in stolen funds." The scope of Jake's betrayal was breathtaking. He wasn't just stealing money, he was planning to destroy hundreds of careers and livelihoods to cover his tracks. "Why are you helping me?" Sarah asked. Emma's expression hardened. "Because my mom built this company from nothing. Because 800 innocent people don't deserve to lose their jobs. And because I'm tired of watching Jake manipulate everyone while pretending to be the victim." They spent the next 4 hours planning their counterattack. Emma had access to company systems that could provide real-time evidence of the theft. Sarah had the investigation skills and personal knowledge of Jake's methods. Together, they might actually be able to stop him, but they had less than 3 weeks before the wedding, and Jake was too smart to leave obvious evidence lying around. "There's one more thing," Emma said as they prepared to leave. "I think I know why Jake targeted you specifically for destruction. Because I was in his way. No. Because you're the only person at the company smart enough to figure out what he was doing. He didn't just want you gone. He needed you completely discredited so that no one would believe you if you ever discovered his scheme." Sarah felt the pieces clicking into place. Her humiliation hadn't been revenge. It had been a preemptive strike against the one person who could expose Jake's crimes. "So what's our next move?" Sarah asked. Emma smiled grimly. "We're going to crash a wedding." With 2 weeks until the wedding, Sarah and Emma worked 18-hour days building their case. Emma had created a sophisticated monitoring system that tracked every fake transaction Jake processed, while Sarah analyzed the client communication patterns that would prove the fraud. But they faced a critical problem. Everything they uncovered would be dismissed as revenge fabrication from a disgruntled ex-wife and a rebellious daughter. They needed irrefutable evidence that couldn't be explained away. "We need them to confess," Emma said during one of their late-night strategy sessions, "on camera, with witnesses, in a way they can't deny later." Sarah had been thinking the same thing. The wedding reception, they'll be relaxed, celebrating, probably drinking. If we can get them talking about their plans, my mom will be there, the board members will be there, half the tech industry will be there. They spent days researching the venue, a luxury vineyard estate with multiple buildings and sophisticated security. Madison had posted detailed content about every aspect of the wedding planning, essentially providing Sarah and Emma with architectural blueprints. "I can get us inside," Emma said. "I'm supposed to be there anyway as my mom's +1, but we need a reason for you to be on the property." Sarah studied the catering staff roster Emma had obtained through her system access. "I'm going to be a photographer. Can you actually do photography? I ran marketing campaigns for 5 years. I can handle a camera well enough to blend in." The plan was risky but elegant. Sarah would pose as part of the photography team, while Emma monitored from the security office. When Jake and Madison inevitably started bragging about their success, Sarah would capture everything on hidden cameras. But 3 days before the wedding, their careful plans nearly imploded. Nana Rose collapsed in her garden. Sarah found her grandmother unconscious among the tomato plants and called an ambulance with shaking hands. At the hospital, doctors explained that Rose had suffered a stroke brought on by stress and high blood pressure. "She's been worried about you, dear," the nurse explained. "Family stress can be a major trigger for elderly patients." Sarah sat beside her grandmother's hospital bed, holding Rose's fragile hand and wondering if her quest for revenge was literally killing the people she loved. "Go finish this," Rose whispered when she woke up. "Don't let that man destroy any more lives." Sarah almost backed out. She'd already lost so much. Her job, her marriage, her baby. She couldn't bear the thought of losing Nana Rose too. But Emma called with urgent news. "They moved up the timeline. Jake is planning to activate the virus tomorrow night during the wedding reception. If we don't stop them now, it's over." Sarah kissed her grandmother's forehead and made a promise. "I'll be back as soon as this is finished." Rose squeezed her hand. "Make him pay for what he did to you." Sarah arrived at the vineyard the next morning, carrying professional camera equipment Emma had procured and wearing a black outfit that would help her blend in with the catering staff. Her hands were steady for the first time in months. She was done being the victim of Jake's story. It was time to write the ending herself. The Napa Valley vineyard was stunning, draped in white silk and fairy lights for what Madison had dubbed the wedding of the decade on her social media accounts. 300 guests mingled on terraced lawns while professional photographers captured every moment for the luxury brands sponsoring the event. Sarah moved through the crowd with practiced invisibility, her camera serving as both prop and weapon. Emma had equipped her with hidden recording devices and a direct communication line to the security office. "Target acquired," Emma's voice whispered through Sarah's nearly invisible earpiece. "Jake is at the bar with the Peterson Group clients. Madison is doing interviews with wedding bloggers by the fountain." Sarah positioned herself near the cocktail area, blending seamlessly with the legitimate photography team. Through her lens, she watched Jake charm investors while Madison posed for sponsored content, both of them playing their roles perfectly. They looked happy. They looked successful. They looked like they'd gotten away with everything. "Sarah, can you hear me?" Emma's voice crackled through the earpiece. "My mom just arrived. She's asking about you specifically." Sarah's stomach dropped. "What kind of asking?" "The suspicious kind. Jake might have warned her you could show up." Sarah adjusted her position, using a marble pillar to block Victoria Sterling's line of sight. She needed Jake and Madison to start talking about their escape plan, but they were both too busy playing the perfect couple for their audience. That's when Sarah noticed something interesting. Madison's phone kept buzzing, and each time it did, she looked increasingly anxious. Sarah zoomed her camera lens and managed to catch a glimpse of the screen. Banking alerts. Lots of them. "Emma, check the company accounts right now." "On it." "Oh my God, Sarah. They're liquidating everything. Every client account, every investment fund. They're cleaning out the entire company treasury." Sarah felt a surge of adrenaline. Jake wasn't waiting until after the reception. He was stealing the money during his own wedding ceremony. Where's the server room? Sarah asked. West building, basement level. But Sarah, there are security guards. I'm going to stop the transfers manually. Sarah slipped away from the reception, following Emma's directions through a maze of wine cellars and storage rooms. The server room was behind a locked door that Emma opened remotely. Sarah found herself surrounded by humming computers and blinking lights. She'd never hacked anything in her life, but Emma guided her through the process of accessing Jake's hidden accounts. There, Emma said through the earpiece. You should see a program called Vineyard Transfer running on the main terminal. Sarah found it, a sophisticated program that was systematically draining Nexus Tech's accounts and routing the money through dozens of shell companies. The amount already stolen made her dizzy, $4.7 million. How do I stop it? There should be a kill switch command. Look for... The server room door slammed shut behind Sarah. She spun around to find Jake standing in the doorway, no longer the charming groom from upstairs. Hello, sweetheart, he said, his voice cold and dangerous. Miss me? Sarah's hand moved instinctively to the emergency alert Emma had given her, but Jake was faster. I wouldn't do that if I were you, he said, producing a gun from inside his tuxedo jacket. We're going to have a little chat about boundaries. Emma's voice crackled frantically in Sarah's earpiece. Sarah, respond. But Sarah couldn't respond without revealing Emma's involvement. She raised her hands slowly, trying to buy time. How did you know I was here? She asked. Jake smiled without warmth. I've been tracking your pathetic little investigation for weeks. Did you really think you could outsmart me? You couldn't even keep a job or a marriage? You destroyed my life. I improved both our lives. You were holding me back. Sarah, always questioning, always analyzing, always making everything complicated. Madison understands that success requires bold moves. Madison understands that you're a criminal. Jake laughed. Madison is brilliant. She identified the security vulnerabilities, designed the shell company structure, and created the perfect exit strategy. She's everything you never were. Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the basement temperature. She's the mastermind. We're partners. Equal partners in every way that matters. Sarah realized with growing horror that she'd underestimated Madison completely. The bubbly influencer persona was a carefully constructed mask hiding a sophisticated financial criminal. So what happens now? Sarah asked, trying to keep him talking while her mind raced through escape options. Now you're going to disappear. Permanently. Another tragic victim of your own mental instability. Jake raised the gun, and Sarah closed her eyes. That's when the lights went out. Emergency lighting bathed the server room in red as Emma's voice boomed through the building's PA system. Security alert. Armed intruder in basement level. All guests, please evacuate to the upper terrace. In the confusion, Sarah dove behind a server rack as Jake's shot went wild. The bullet sparked off a metal panel, and suddenly alarm bells were ringing throughout the vineyard. Emma, I need backup down here, Sarah shouted. FBI is 30 seconds out. Keep him talking. Jake was cursing in the darkness, trying to locate Sarah while also attempting to complete the money transfer. You always have to ruin everything, don't you? He snarled. The way you ruined our marriage by stealing our savings and sleeping with your secretary, Sarah called back, moving carefully between the server racks. I evolved. Sarah, I found someone who appreciates ambition instead of constantly questioning every decision. Sarah could hear footsteps pounding down the stairs. Jake heard them too and made a desperate lunge for the main terminal. Stop right there. Agent Martinez burst through the door with 3 other FBI agents. Weapons drawn, Jake spun around, still holding his gun. This is my wife. She's having another breakdown. She broke in here with some kind of weapon. For a terrifying moment, Sarah thought he might actually convince them. Jake was still wearing his wedding tuxedo, still radiating that charming authority that had fooled everyone for so long. Then Emma appeared behind the agents with a laptop. Every word of his confession is recorded, Agent Martinez. Plus real-time evidence of the financial crimes in progress. Sarah emerged from behind the server rack, hands raised. The transfer program is still running. He's stolen almost $5 million just tonight. Agent Martinez studied the laptop screen Emma showed him, then looked at Jake with disgust. Mr. Mitchell, you're under arrest for wire fraud, money laundering, And attempted murder. Attempted murder, I was defending myself from an unstable ex-wife. We have video footage of you threatening Ms. Mitchell with a weapon, Emma said, along with audio of you confessing to the entire embezzlement scheme. As the agents handcuffed Jake, he caught sight of Emma for the first time. Victoria's daughter, you little bitch. You have no idea what you've done to your mother's company. Emma smiled coldly. Actually, I saved my mother's company, and 800 jobs. You're welcome. The agents led Jake away as he shouted about conspiracies and frame jobs, his charming mask finally slipping completely. Upstairs, the wedding reception had turned into chaos. Madison was in hysterics as agents confiscated her phone and laptop, her perfect influencer composure cracking under pressure. "This is insane," Madison screamed as they handcuffed her in front of 300 wedding guests. "I'm the victim here. Jake manipulated me. I didn't know anything about the money." But Emma had recovered deleted files from Madison's devices, showing detailed plans for the embezzlement scheme. Plans that Madison had drafted herself months before Jake's first message to Sarah. Victoria Sterling approached Sarah as the agents loaded the criminals into waiting vehicles. "Ms. Mitchell," Victoria said quietly, "I owe you an enormous apology." Sarah watched Jake and Madison being driven away in separate FBI cars, their fairy tale romance ending in federal custody. "You believed the story he wanted you to believe," Sarah said. "He's very good at manipulation. Emma told me everything. The surveillance, the investigation, the evidence you gathered. I should have listened to you from the beginning." Sarah felt too exhausted for vindication. "I just want my life back." Victoria handed her a business card. "I'm starting a new venture capital firm focused on companies with strong ethical leadership. I could use someone with your investigative skills and marketing expertise as a partner." Sarah looked at the card. Sterling Ventures. Victoria Sterling, founder and CEO. "Full partner?" Sarah asked. "Full partner? With equity, profit sharing, and complete autonomy over your department?" Sarah thought about Nana Rose in the hospital, about the small town where she'd rebuilt herself from nothing, about the future she could create from the ashes of her old life. "I'll consider it," she said. As the vineyard staff began cleaning up the wreckage of the wedding, Sarah finally felt something she hadn't experienced in months: hope. 6 months later, Sarah stood in the conference room of Sterling Ventures, presenting their investment strategy to a group of potential clients. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, she could see the San Francisco Bay glittering in the afternoon sun. "Our due diligence process includes comprehensive background checks, financial auditing, and character assessment," Sarah explained to the assembled entrepreneurs. "We've learned that brilliant business ideas mean nothing without ethical leadership." After the presentation, Sarah checked her phone. 3 missed calls from Jake's prison number. She deleted them without listening to the voicemails. He'd been calling for months, alternating between apologies and threats. But Sarah was done giving him any space in her head. Emma knocked on her office door. "Ready for lunch?" They walked to their favorite sushi place, a ritual they'd developed as their friendship deepened beyond their shared mission to stop Jake. Emma had been promoted to Chief Technology Officer at Sterling Ventures, where her security expertise was invaluable for protecting their investments. "Any word from the parole board?" Emma asked over miso soup. "Jake got 15 years federal prison. Madison got 12, but she'll probably serve 8 with good behavior." Sarah dipped her California roll in soy sauce. "They both blame each other." "Of course." "And your grandmother," Sarah smiled. "Nana Rose is doing physical therapy and complaining that the nurses won't let her garden unsupervised. She's basically back to normal." "She's amazing. I want to be that tough when I'm 83. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from Nana Rose. "Watching your interview on the news. So proud of you, sweetheart." Sarah had been profiled in several business magazines as an example of resilience in the face of corporate fraud. The story of her investigation had become a cautionary tale in business schools about the importance of thorough background checks and ethical leadership. "I have news," Emma said, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "Good news or bad news? Depends on your perspective. Victoria wants to expand Sterling Ventures internationally. She's offering you the chance to head up our London office." Sarah set down her chopsticks. "London. Full autonomy, huge budget, opportunity to build something from scratch. It would be your show completely." Sarah considered the offer. London represented a fresh start, a chance to build a legacy that had nothing to do with Jake or Madison or the wreckage of her old life. But it also meant leaving Nana Rose, leaving the life she'd rebuilt in California, leaving Emma. "What do you think I should do?" Sarah asked. Emma smiled mysteriously. "Well, I might know someone who'd be interested in relocating to London for the right opportunity." "Oh, really? Victoria's been wanting to establish a European tech security division. She might need a qualified CTO to run it." Sarah felt her heart skip. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I'm saying that some of the best adventures require a partner." Sarah reached across the table and took Emma's hand. "Are we talking about a business partnership or something more personal?" Emma's cheeks turned pink. "Maybe both." Sarah thought about the journey that had brought her here, from the devastating morning when she discovered Jake's betrayal to this moment of infinite possibility. She'd lost everything she thought mattered and discovered what actually did. "London sounds perfect," Sarah said. 3 months later, Sarah stood in her new office overlooking the Thames, video calling Nana Rose, who was FaceTiming from her garden. "The house is beautiful, dear," Rose said, admiring the Victorian townhouse Sarah and Emma had bought together. "And Emma seems lovely. When do I get to meet her properly? She's flying back to California with me next month for the final Jake and Madison sentencing hearing." "Are you nervous about seeing them again?" Sarah considered the question. "No, they can't hurt me anymore. They're exactly where they belong." As she hung up the call, Emma appeared in her doorway with 2 cups of tea. "How's the new Empire building going?" Emma asked, settling into the chair across from Sarah's desk. "We just signed our 15th client. All ethical, all profitable, all properly vetted." Sarah smiled. "I think we're going to be okay." Emma raised her teacup in a mock toast. "To new beginnings. To Phoenix Rising," Sarah corrected. Through her office window, Sarah could see construction crews working on the building across the street, tearing down something old to build something better. It seemed like the perfect metaphor for her life. Jake had thought he was writing her ending when he destroyed her marriage and career. Instead, he'd given her the chance to write her own beginning. And this time, Sarah was the one holding the pen. The end.